Hey everybody, I've just had a coughing fit, so hopefully it won't kick up again. But before we get started, first you'll see John isn't with me at the moment. He just jumped into a truck and is heading west. And so if he gets a chance to, he might be in the chat. He might show up. We're gonna roll with the punches tonight, and in the meantime, I will do my very best to carry the discussion and the topic tonight. But before we jump in, we just want to take a moment and celebrate with all of you, because this week, Deservingly You reached our first 100 people on YouTube. Now, you know, in the world of YouTube, some people might look at that number and just think, oh, only 100. But we've honestly never looked at it that way. You know, when we started this journey, we said something to each other over and over again. And, you know, if we could just help one person, it would all be worth it. And that has never changed with us. You know, we're not trying to create clickbait. We're not chasing algorithms or anything like that, or be the loudest voices on YouTube. We're survivors ourselves. And because we lived it, we know something, you know, that choosing healing is only the beginning. And then what comes next is that work. And healing, it's hard work. Excuse me. And, you know, it asks us, that work asks us to question our old beliefs, you know, and also to grieve, to rebuild trust, and to stay when every part of us wants to run. And not everyone is ready for that work. And that's okay, because everybody's journey has its own timing. But every one of you who is here tonight or watching later, you have taken a step. I'm getting emotional. You showed up, and that deserves to be recognized. So when we look at that number, we don't see 100 subscribers. We see 100 people. People choosing courage and choosing truth and choosing healing, and people that are willing to do some of the hardest work that a human being can do. And we want you to know that we see you. So we are honored that you invite us to walk alongside you. So thank you for trusting us, and thank you for sharing these conversations and encouraging one another and us. Thank you for helping to build a community where people can come exactly as they are. You know, we a lot of times say every story matters, and that includes yours. So whether you've been here from episode 1 or tonight is your very first time joining us, thank you. Now together, this celebration isn't about us. It's about all of us. So thank you so very much for walking this journey with us. So let me get myself together to, you know, and thank you, John. We love you too. So thank you for everything. And with that, like I said, Johnny's gonna try to be on. He's got a brand new travel partner and everything, so we don't know what's gonna come along, but I'll carry it, and hopefully we'll get get a few words from him, even if he has to catch it on the replay, you know. But yes, we know. And Leonard, thank you for being here from day one. We really appreciate you as well. So let's dive in. And this one might be kind of a challenging topic too, but hopefully we're gonna try and take a different look at it tonight. So as always, welcome to Deservingly You. You know, this is that space where we want to talk honestly about what it takes to rebuild our lives after a high control environment, and how we can live self-led lives instead of being managed. I'm Shannon Avery Briggs, and I am an ex-Jehovah's Witness. I'm a certified transformational resilience coach. I'm co-founder of Luminous Connections, Deservingly You, and the Exit Generation Movement. And normally I'm here with my husband, John, who also is an ex-Jehovah's Witness and a certified transformational resilience coach, and my co-founder. Last week we talked about tears, when they finally come. And sometimes it might take years for them to come. And we also got curious about what they might be telling us. And so tonight we're going to be going after something that can stop a lot of healing before it even starts. And it's that quiet thought that may say, well, if I get better, am I saying it wasn't that bad? And so tonight we're going to be talking about why healing can feel like betrayal. So if you're catching us live, drop live in the chat. Let us know where you're connected from. It's 99 degrees here where I'm at. What's the temperature where you guys are at? We'd love to know. And so the other thing too is this kind of conversation matters. So if you connect with it, please subscribe and hit the notification button. And we encourage you to invite 3 people, share it with 3 people this week so that we can actually get to that next milestone. We appreciate getting to 100, but we want to keep going because we want to be able to help other people. And it looks like Johnny did log in. So I am going to add him to the stage. He's going to be, it's going to be noisy. So more than likely, we're going to have him muted. So he is there. So thanks, Johnny. From South Florida. So we have South Florida. We've got San Jose. I know we've got another California folk in here too. And I think we have one of the Carolinas too. So hopefully the dogs will behave tonight too, but they're kind of excited because I'm excited. Yeah, Charlotte, North Carolina. I thought that's where you were from, Leonard. So before we go any further, we always want to set the stage because how we show up in a conversation like this really matters just as much as what we talk about. And so what we have done from the beginning is, set the space, not as rules, but as agreements among us, so that we can have that space for reflection and not reaction and be curious over judgment and just be aware so that we are not practicing self-criticism. And tonight we're going to be talking about guilt. And this might be something that many of us have carried for years. So we're not here to debate anything or discuss doctrine or anything like that. That's not what this is for. It's about you, not the system, not those arguments or anybody else's choices. This is an invitation for you to look at yourself and to pay attention to what you're carrying, see what surfaces, see what comes up, and do that with curiosity without judging ourselves for any of it. Now, you don't have to share out loud just to be part of it too. It's important to listen. And so you can, like we said, just notice what comes up. So if you can do that, that's participating as well. So let's take a look about like where we are so far. So we are in phase 2 of the exit paths journey. This is a framework that John and I put together. This is phase 2 is allow the grief. And grace, what you're allowed to miss, grief with nowhere to come, and the anger, and then last week, the tears. So these were the topics that we've covered over the last few weeks. And tonight may explain why some of that grief, that if you've done some grief work, if it might have gotten stuck, this could give you some additional perspectives to hopefully help you break free from that. I've got quite a little active corgi here, so hopefully he'll settle down here pretty soon. So as we move through the grief cycle, some of the thoughts that we have can end up surfacing, and when that question shows up inside of our head, sometimes it can catch us off guard, and we want to notice what those thoughts do. They actually take the best things about you, your loyalty, your love, and then they turn them against your healing. And so I invite you to drop in the chat if that voice has ever caught you, because sometimes you might think that you're the only one that's carrying this. And if we can get some people in the chat, you'd be able to see, and find out that you're standing in a room of people who carry, similar things, or even the exact same thing. And what this is the loyalty bind. And that first step of getting free is seeing that it can be like two different guilts that in a sense are wearing the same coat. Riley, stop now, babe. Once it did, yeah. Yeah, you've been doing this for a while, huh, John? So tonight we're going to dive into two different types of guilt. That guilt about erasing what happened, that whisper that says, if you heal, you're saying that what you went through wasn't real. And then also the guilt of surviving the people, surviving those people that may still be inside the system. And this can be like a lot like what people experience when they go through health issues. So for example, if somebody survives a cancer diagnosis and there's other people who went through it at the same time and they pass away, this is kind of a similar sense of guilt that can come up, and it's deeply human. And I know for me personally, when I went when I went through the cancer journey myself, I did experience that. I had that survivor's guilt. And so one of the things I want to invite you to picture is as if guilt is one side of a bridge and the question is the bridge itself. And then what's waiting on the other side is that fear. And it's that fear about where we're standing right now, or possibly fear about what the future can be. So when we can identify these, naming which guilt we're carrying and which fear it's connected to, that's when we can begin changing the question, that bridge, and if we can change that bridge, we can start to move forward. So before we go into the keys, we need to answer a bigger question of like, where can this guilt come from in the first place? So one of the things that we may not even realize as we became more and more indoctrinated, excuse me, when we became more and more indoctrinated, this was being built in us that whole time. That system fused us to the group, who we were to the group, and it was very purposeful. So that any movement that toward ourselves would register as a move against anybody that you love. That wasn't an accident of how you were wired. It's strategic and it's engineering. And if you think about a smoke alarm for a second, a smoke alarm is supposed to go off when there's danger, right? And that's its whole job. Now imagine somebody wired your smoke detector, your smoke alarm backwards, so that it actually screamed every time that you opened a window for fresh air. That's kind of like what this guilt is like. That alarm that was wired to go off at your freedom. And so it feels like your conscience, because that's what it was built to feel like your conscience. And here's another part I want to invite you to consider, because I don't want anybody to hear this wrong. Your love for the people that were in there is real. It was never manufactured. And that can get kind of confusing as we're working through this grief and trying to figure out, what's what and what's real and what did I feel and what didn't I, what did I think, what did I feel, all of this, it can get all kind of jumbled up. But it was never manufactured. That was you. But what the system did was it captured that love and built a trap on top of it. So the lie that healing erases the past, that part that was installed, but the love, that part always belonged to you, and it always is yours. Now, the guilt that goes along with this may feel completely real, but just because we feel it doesn't mean that it's yours. So instead, I want to invite you to consider that that wiring is still in the wall. And so we want to take a look at what that construction actually looked like. Because I actually had a fresh reminder for myself. So there's a line at the very beginning of the Truman Show from the man who played his best friend. And he assisted in creating his world. You know, the character Marlon states at the very beginning, it's all true. It's all real. Nothing here you see is fake. It's merely controlled. So let's sit with that one for a second, and we're going to come back to it. So I've often reflected on this and said, holy cow, we lived in the Truman Show. And this week, I felt like I got that confirmation again. I came back across a video from one of the advocates on YouTube, and she had actually lived near Bethel for years and knew many people there. And she described how things really worked behind the scenes. And there was this Bethel couple who had supposedly been serving in a different country. That's what it showed on the video anyway. And she had reached out to them about it, and the answer that she got back was, "Oh no, that was just an act." They had dressed him up and taken these pictures at the studio. And so the comment that I left on her video was, "Oh my goodness, we really were in the Truman Show." So, and if you've seen that movie, you know exactly why this comparison hits. And if you haven't, I encourage you to watch it. It's really, really powerful, and it parallels everywhere. You know, it was a whole life that was lived inside a world that was built for him. Every scene arranged before he walked into it, and the fear of leaving written right into the script. So even the sky was part of the set. John, did you have something that you wanted to say?
Yeah, I just watched that again today for the first time in a long time, and you're so right about the comparisons and the things that stood out, like when the thing fell out of the sky, and that was kind of like an aha moment, and then the people behind the elevator, that was like his 607 BCE. That's what it reminded me of. And then he started waking up and seeing things and hearing things, just like what happened to us, right? And then it was just like bam. And then once you see something, you can't, or hear something, you can't unsee it, and everything just kind of just opened up for him all at once. After that.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for speaking up.
You're welcome.
So I watched it again too. After I had that post I saw that other little clip on YouTube. I had to go back and watch it too. And for me, that stage light that fell from the sky, that at the very beginning, to me, that was the piercing the illusion. So kind of that first crack. So that's what we kind of talked about in phase 1 of our framework. And then the one that really, really stood out to me too, that really spoke to me, was the woman who touches the screen so longingly. I think her name was Sylvia, and just wanting to be connected with him while he's trapped inside that dome. And that's what it can feel like, with our families, touching that glass and still not being able to reach them. So if you've seen the movie, drop in the chat what parallel stood out to you. And if you haven't seen the movie, we really encourage you and invite you to look for yourselves. And here's the part of the advocates video that really stayed with me was even the videos were staged. So the ones that so many of us were moved by and we might have cried through, and the ones that we felt like were the proof, they were scripted and produced and manufactured to look like that spontaneous faith. And I know what that revelation can do. It can actually feel, I know it did for me anyway, so I'm speaking from my own experience. It can feel like that floor just dropping out, because if the videos were fake, what does that make the tears?
Didn't she say that the videos weren't even made where they were supposed to have been?
Yeah.
In that country or whatever?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So let's answer that head on, because this is where a lot of people, they can get stuck, right? Learning the truth doesn't take your story away. It fills in the missing pages, so to speak.
Yeah. So if we think about, for example, one specific day, we could say it's 2009, and you're at a convention and you're watching one of those videos, and it moves you so much that you cry, and then you go home even more committed, and for years your memory of that day stays. Something moved me. And then you find out that there was a production team that was engineering exactly that moment, engineering it so that you would be moved emotionally. And so here's what I'd like to invite you to consider is that knowledge, knowing that they created that, it doesn't delete your day. Those emotions did happen, that the tears still happen, your sincerity still happened. But what you have now, like John said, is that missing page. And you finally know what was being done to you while that happened. It was the same day. You just have a better, fuller story of it.
Yeah, that's the whole thing right there. The production was fake, right? Just like in the Truman Show. Your experience of it was real. You weren't fake. You were deceived, right? And those are opposite. Those are two different things. So what you lived was real. The tears were real, and your sacrifice, that was definitely real.
Yeah. Yep. So that brings us to the first key. Healing doesn't erase the record. And you don't have to stay wounded to keep the story accurate. That story has been written, and it happened. Nothing that you do this Tuesday is going to change what happened in 1998 or in 2009.
Yep, and I take it one step further as well. The healing that you needed is the record. And think about it. Nobody needs this much rebuilding after something that wasn't a big deal. Getting it better doesn't mean it wasn't that bad. Or getting better doesn't mean it wasn't that bad. So it means it was.
Yeah. So if you see that on your screen, read it again. That, getting better doesn't mean that it wasn't that bad. It actually means that it was. And the thing is that you can honor your story without staying inside that wound. And honoring never required you to live there. Your healing is not a betrayal of what you went through. It's actually evidence.
That's key number one. Now the harder one.
So we want to say this carefully too. Everything that we just talked about, the set, the script, the staging, none of that was about the people. In the Truman Show, the cast members were actors. But in our story, the people were real. Your mother was real. Your friends were real. There were some that were likely superficial, but there were also some that were real. And, you know, it might have been that woman who brought you dinner when you were really, really sick, and she might have truly, genuinely cared for you. And you'll hear this from advocates as well. You know, I also watched another one of Jonas's videos this past week, you know, the goat-like personality. And he said it plainly. You know, they're doing another stand-up at another convention. And he says, we're not here to protest the people. It's not about the people at all.
Yeah, and this is where our story is actually harder than Truman's, because the system treated people as replaceable. Right? Flip the switch, swap one family for a congregation, one friend for another. But treating people that way doesn't mean that they were replaceable, because they weren't, and they aren't. So I watch for this one, because it sneaks up on you. Some of us leave, and we keep that exact habit. We flip the switch ourselves, put everybody off, tell ourselves that they're all replaceable, call it freedom. But that's not freedom, is it? That's the system still driving, okay, behind the wheel. And seeing the set doesn't switch off the love. It was never supposed to anyway.
Yeah. So that's one of those things that can be instilled in us, you know, to automatically want to flip that switch as well. So one more thing that I do want to say too, there was a comment that I read this week that really touched me. You know, somebody wrote that they don't have a choice, that the shunning is required. And even the families who say theirs don't do it, they're still under that requirement. So the silence you may be living with, some of it isn't fully theirs. And it's the system may be speaking through them. And that doesn't make the pain of it any less real. You know, both things can be true at once. And a lot of you that are here, this may be like, yep, I totally get it. You're speaking to the choir kind of thing. But it may also, if we really take a step back and think about it, it may change what silence means about you. The thing is that silence was never proof that you weren't worth loving. And if you felt something move in you just now, you know, stay with us. This next part is for you. Every time that I consider an idea like this, I mean, I recently went through this myself, you know, and so revisiting these ideas and these truths is really, really important. So, you know, it's never proof that you weren't worth loving. So the second key that we're talking about tonight is that you can keep loving them. The thing that changes is the terms. You know, the system only ever offered loyalty on its terms. It decided what love was allowed to look like, when it could flow, who was permitted to receive it, when it could happen, all of that kind of thing. But now that you're out here, you're the one that gets to change those terms. You get to define what loving them means now, and you get to be the one who decides.
Oh yeah, because love was never supposed to have a toll booth, right? Somebody built that booth, kind of put a committee in it, and started charging admission to your own family. And loving on your terms mean you can drive past this, right? Drive past the toll booth, just right past it, okay? And there was never supposed to be a gate on that road anyway.
I love that you're using driving as an example and using that. So you get to write your own terms. You know what loving them looks like. and how you hold them and what you carry forward, including every memory that the love ever made. Those belong to you, and they get to stay with you.
Now, loyalty was never supposed to cost you, yourself. But that was like the system's price tag, not love.
Yeah. So there's one more thing that we want to say about this. And we promised each other that we wouldn't dress it up at all. So, the people that you love that are inside that system may never see you healing. They may never know you stopped being angry. They may never find out how well you're doing or how much of your love survived that exit. And you could become the healthiest, most whole version of yourself, and they may never witness 1 minute of it. And that can be really difficult. I'm not going to pretend otherwise, because if I was, I'd be pretending. So I want you to think about a lighthouse keeper for a minute. And, way out on the rocks on the cold, foggy night, there's no ships in sight, no radio. And as far as the keeper can tell, nobody on earth even knows that light is burning. But the lamp turns anyway, all night long. That's the assignment. Not shine when somebody else is watching, just to shine. And the thing that we want to set next to that, not instead of it, but next to it, is loving without being witnessed is still loving. And healing without being witnessed is still healing. Your healing doesn't need their signature to be real. It never did. A lighthouse doesn't check who watches it before it turns on. Hold on to that. And we're going to go back to Truman and see how the movie ends. So, at the end of that film, Truman actually sails right into the edge of the world. His boat punctures the sky, and he finds the stairs. And the guy who built his entire world speaks to him from the clouds and gives him every single reason to stay. And Truman listens. And then he takes a bow and says his goodbye. And then if we look at what's in front of him, that exit opens into the pure black. He can't see one thing on the other side. And nothing in his life ever showed him what was out there. Everything he's ever known, every person, every street, every sky, it's all behind him. So imagine what he may have felt standing there. The fear and the excitement at the same time. And the grief of letting go of the only world that he'd ever known. And the aliveness of finally choosing something that was real. Both at once. And some of us know that exact feeling. I remember when John and I walked out of the Kingdom Hall for the very last time, knowing we'd never go back. Nobody cheered. Nobody even marked that it was the last time. And what we didn't know and what we couldn't see was that there were people that were supporting us on the outside the whole time, and we weren't aware of them. It wasn't until we started sharing that we finally got to see it, like tonight, seeing the 100 folks.
Yes, I want to say how grateful I am for that, how excited I am for the 100. We reached that, but it ain't about the numbers. It's just, it's a good feeling. But yeah, that's exactly how the movie ends, like Shannon brought out. The moment Truman steps through, right? All over the world, people who had watched him his entire life, right, leaped to their feet. Okay, 2 elderly women on the couch, I remember, that were holding each other, crying. A whole bar full of strangers cheering and hugging. Security guards who watched him every night, people who had known him his entire life, and he never knew a single one of them existed. So he never heard a single one of those cheers. But he walked out anyway. So I need to check out for a minute. I might come back on, but just give me a moment.
Okay. So the same might be true about you guys. So right now, tonight, people you're not even aware of, maybe watching you take every step and cheering you on. And despite everything that you've walked through to get here, this is what you may be happening. There are people in our community who watch every single week and have never typed one word. And they see every step that you take, the people that get up on the stage and the people that make comments and everything. Your courage is teaching them right now. And you may never know their names. And there's a group that gets me every time, and it's the ones who will remember how you left. Somebody watched you go, and they may have judged you out loud, but they also may have filed it away. And years from now, when their own moment comes, they may remember that you did it with love. And you might be the proof somebody's holding on to that there's life out there. And the cheering may be real even when it never reaches you. So keep walking. The sky is full of witnesses, and witnesses of this. I'm not talking about the other, And so, and speaking of being observed, maybe something landed for you tonight, and maybe this is your moment. So if anybody would like to join us on stage, join us, me, for right now, if Johnny comes back. But the link is in the chat. We'd love to have you join us. And this is a time for us to share something that landed, or ask a question, or even looking at, okay, what does loving look like on your terms? What does it look like for you? And of course, there's no pressure to do this. So I'll keep going, and we can also come back if anybody decides they want to come up on the stage. And just as usual, we do one at a time. We don't have a bunch of people join, because we don't want people to be talking over one another, and we want to be able to address the questions, or you really hear what somebody has to say. Alrighty, so Leonard. Okay, I will add Leonard. Leonard, hello. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Good.
What's your question tonight?
Well, since we were talking about betrayal, I just had a statement that I had written down, and I just wanted to share it, if that was okay.
Okay. We were actually talking about grief, though. We weren't talking about betrayal.
Oh, okay. Well, grief is just like, you can, after you've been hurt for so long, for so many years, it's just like that grief just constantly resurfaces, along with other grief, after as a loss of a marriage, a loved one, or just your whole entire family as a general. At least for me, because I just feel like my relatives, their love for me is a Hollywood stage. Fake, fraud, and phony. Because as much as I loved them, I never had that same love in return. Mm-hmm. It was just materialistic, if I can put it in proper term, put it in that term.
Yeah. And so what kind of boundaries have you set with your family?
Well, in honesty, I really don't want to have anything to do with them, really, because every time when I step out on faith, it's the same thing over and over and over again. And for me, I believe forgiving is not an open door for her.
Yep.
Forgiving is not tolerating BS, because I'm a person, I'm not going to tolerate drama, nonsense, and foolishness. And
Mhm.
that's just the bottom line. Because if it was the tables were turned, they're not going to take my nonsense, drama, and foolishness. So in return, I'm not going to take theirs.
So what are you doing to heal your grief?
Honestly, just prayer, number one, and just finding out who I am as a person, where I know, well, no, understanding who I am as a person, because I
Mhm.
know who I am. I'm just understanding who I am in reality.
Who are you going to share you with, Leonard?
Anybody, anybody who's willing to accept it.
Awesome. So have you so a few weeks ago, might have been even a couple of months ago, you had shared that you were considering, doing some volunteering at like nonprofits and stuff. Have you been able to do that? Have you been able to find a cool group that will put their arms around you and just appreciate you for everything that you offer and what you can give?
I have thought about, going into either
Yeah.
going into food or drug and the alcohol
Mhm.
arena,
Mhm.
either one of the two, because I know that they are able to, what's the word I'm looking for? Like you said, Shannon, wrap their arms
Yeah.
around me,
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. So a food bank, I think, would be a great opportunity to practice, because when you get
Mm-hmm.
into the other stuff, it can be a little bit more difficult. But the food bank would be a great place to practice and learn to experience and accept the praise from other people,
Mm-hmm.
because that can take practice. It can take practice to, especially if you have had the negative things and negative thoughts for so very, very many years, and retraining that part of your brain that is going to put the wall up and say, nope, 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 I am a bad person. I am a bad person, And so
Mm-hmm.
getting yourself into an environment where you can, offer the best of you and show up as the best of you, that can help immensely.
Mm-hmm. And when you say that, Shannon, I can think of two women in particular.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, they are, well, I can just assume they just rather put their hurt. They have been hurt in their lives before, and they just gotta dump it off on somebody. And I was the closest person,
Mm-hmm.
and the relative who helped raise me is one of them. I won't call her name, but I'm grateful for what she's done for me.
Mm-hmm.
But I have to set certain boundaries.
Yep, absolutely. That's part of, taking care of yourself too. And it doesn't
Mm-hmm.
mean that you love them any less. But
Yeah.
so I still am going to encourage you and root you on, and I can't wait for you to come back, on this stage when you do the volunteer work, because that I think would be so powerful for you,
Yes.
because you've got such a huge heart and you want to help so many people. And so and I think that it possibly was some of the things that you end up getting stuck with, that you've shared over the months that we've gotten to know you and stuff. It could help you break through some of those things that are keeping you stuck as well.
Yes. And I'm glad that you said that, Shannon, because I don't know if you read the Holy Scriptures or not, but my favorite scripture is put on the whole armor of God.
Mm-hmm.
And when you said that I have a big heart, and I have been told that time and time before, and now I understand why my relatives and various people have treated me the way they have treated me because that is really who I am, and I
Mm-hmm.
can't change who I am. I can't change my personality. And
I'm going to challenge you a little bit on that one. We won't go into it,
mhm,
but I would challenge you if we ever had the opportunity to have a conversation of it. I would challenge you on that. The people that you cannot change are other people, but you can
yeah,
grow, you can learn, you can do personal development and stuff like that. So I'm going to challenge you a little bit on that definition that you gave. We won't go into it. Johnny, do you have any comments to Leonard before we go on?
hi John,
Hey, Leonard, how you doing?
good.
Oh, great. I guess what came to mind right there, Shannon said we weren't going to get into it, but personally, I've done a complete 180 in my life with how I behave and how I treat other people, who I am at the core. You know, I was a drug addict, alcoholic for over 30 years. You know, and everything that came with it. You know, and so that's a complete flip. So personally, but Shannon's right. You can't change other people, and if they do change, and it's not heartfelt for a time, they'll just resent you for it, and then they'll probably come back with a vengeance and be even worse.
Well, that's control. That's control too.
Yeah.
If you're but and sometimes we need to be reminded, because I do remember like way back when with a conversation with John where he came and kind of said a very similar statement as you did. He was like, I am da 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 da. And I was like, I am going to challenge you on that. You know, because huh?
I said I was brain damaged, yeah.
Yes, he did. I wasn't going to call it out. I'll let you do that. So, yeah, with calling it, I challenged him on it. It's like, no, you're not going to. So anyway, any other final thoughts, Leonard, before I take you off the thing?
I just want to say congratulations on making it to the 100th episode of the series that we have here, and I am just so grateful to be a part of what you and John have both been doing for these 100 episodes, and just being here from day one and seeing how things have been changing and growing as we have gone along in this year. It's been a year.
Not quite a year. Almost a year, but not quite.
Okay, but almost.
Mm-hmm.
But being here from day one, I'm grateful that I can just be a part of something I'm just grateful to be a part of something that can just help people to know who they are, not just physically, but mentally and emotionally, and accepting things that they cannot change, and putting the past behind and not letting the past define who they are and what they are going to become.
Beautifully said. Beautifully said. Thank you. All right.
Thank you.
Yep. We will continue on.
Thank you, Leonard. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
Yes,
and Johnny, I'm not sure if you saw, but Little Bella is saying hello.
Little Bella?
Little Bella is saying hello, as well as Shannon and Bella.
Awesome. I can't see that.
It's in the chat.
Hello, everyone. Hello, guys.
before we dive into this piece, I wanted to bring up that, you know, Natalie had made the comment that she was told by her father, we still need to bring Ruby back so that she can put these on the screen and everything for us, and it's hard for me to do it all on my own. But anyway, she made the comment that she was recently told by her father that her happiness was an illusion. And he's at least recognizing that you're happy one way or another. And so thank you for sharing that thought. Yeah. Shannon says she's showing Bella her grandpa's on TV. Yay. So we love you, Bella.
Hi, Bella. Thank you, Shannon.
Yep. Yes. Thank you. So as always, when we finish our episodes, we take the opportunity to do a breakout session. You know, we have those conversations in smaller rooms, and your cameras can be either on or off. It's totally your choice. And what we do is we take 5 questions together. And one of the things that I have been seeing and finding is that there always ends up being something deeper than what we think that we're going to. And for me, they have been really, really powerful. And there have been tears, and there's been laughter, and there's been seriousness, and there's been goals. And so it's been just a really, really wonderful experience. And I've genuinely appreciated every single one of them. And so we do them on Monday nights at 4 p.m. Pacific and 7 p.m. Eastern. You can find us on Facebook in the Exit Generation, and the link will be in the description of this video, and it's also in the description of our channel as well. And so
please come as you are, and just to listen if that's what you need, because that counts as well.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
And Johnny, if he's got some space, he'll be there. Otherwise, I usually kind of carry it. So next week is going to be powerful. You know, when we think about grieving those people who are still alive, that ambiguous loss. And I know for me, when I went through that experience of grieving the people that were still alive, and really, really understanding how intense that loss can be, because it can feel different. It can change things. And so I'm really looking forward to that conversation. You know, we talked tonight about loving them on your terms, and now we're going to talk about how do we work through that grief. And this week, you know, I've had a couple conversations about this exact topic, and it was really, really powerful stuff. And even as, you know, even as coaches, this is it's a tough thing to go through and to work through. And so, but why the tools and the knowledge are so beneficial, so that we don't get stuck in it and that we can move forward.
I lost my screen, Shannon. Sorry.
That's all right. All right. So bring somebody with you, and you know, so invite 3 people to next week. So also before we close, just a quick update. As we shared last week, John and I are in the competition for America's Favorite Couple. And the last time that we looked, we're currently 3rd. But here's why we are doing this and asking for votes. It's not about the prize. It's, you know, we want to be able to tell the story in Variety magazine. We want this community's story, and being able to share how damaging coming out of high controlled environments and religion truly is. That's why we put our face out in this competition, and why we're speaking up and starting to share more about it, so that not one person has to go through it, and not one person who finds out and leaves and feels that they're alone. You know, we want to be able to find ways to support this community even more. And so, you know, there's the QR code there. There's also the website that's listed there. You can take a picture of it. And if you feel moved to vote, wonderful. We really, really appreciate it. And we're very grateful and thankful. You know, we were first in round 1 for the top 20. We stayed in first place until the last 2 hours. And then we went to second place. And then in the final moments, we went to third, and that's kind of where we're staying. And so, like we said, we want to be able to help more people and be able to tell this story in every angle that we can. So this would give us that opportunity. So thank you to the people that have voted for us and that continue. So the thing I want to leave you with is something that I wrote, working through this exact topic in my own life, that when I was and it has resurfaced, with the different challenges and each, from the divorce, from the, coming out of the domestic violence and coming out of the organization and losing family members and even surviving cancer. Healing isn't a betrayal. It's choosing the real world with love on my terms. It's not a slogan. That's actually where I came from and where I live. And I invite you to choose yours as well. Choose your world.
One more thing before we go. You don't have to earn your healing. Right? You don't have to suffer a certain number of years, first. You don't have to prove your loyalty to his pain. It's already yours. Take it. Do the work. It's worth it. I'm telling you.
So thanks so much for showing up tonight. You can learn more about us at theexitgeneration.org. And if you'd like to support the show, that's ko-fi.com/deservinglyu. Monday nights are our breakouts, The Exit Generation on Facebook, 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern. And the link is in the description, or you can search for us too.
Yep. And here's the only thing that I actually would like for you to take from this slide here is that you showed up, right, to a tough topic on a Sunday night. And when nobody inside would understand why, and that is more than you know. We appreciate it so much. If this was beneficial to you, please invite 3 friends or 5, whatever comes up, or just one, wherever you see the need. The next week's episode, of course, like, comment, and subscribe, and hit that notification bell. We appreciate you.
Yep. So thank you so much for being here tonight and for trusting us. And thank you for the 100 people that have joined our community. And thank you for letting us share this space with you and creating the environment that can heal. Somewhere tonight, somebody watched you take another step. And maybe you'll never hear that cheer. Keep walking anyway. And for me and John, this has been Deservingly You. So thank you and good night.
Hi, everyone. Love you, Bella.